Howdy, it's Jimerado. This is a little video we made again on our trip, mostly through South Dakota, but partially through North Dakota, Wyoming, Illinois, Indiana, a couple of other states in there. But we drove up through North Dakota. We went to the Enchanted Highway. This is one of the more unique kind of roadside attractions you can find. There's the Enchanted Castle and a couple of sculptures out in front of it. And this is in Regent, North Dakota, which is just a neat, small little town. I've mentioned in another video that we drove from Rapid City, South Dakota, up to Theodore Roosevelt National Park. But we on the way up, we sort of sidetracked and went and drove the, I believe, 32 miles of the Enchanted Highway. And I did take a couple of pictures of signs. Again, this is the Enchanted Castle, and there's a sign out front that says, "We'll treat you like royalty. Enchanted Castle Hotel, Excalibur Steakhouse, Medieval Tavern, open at 5 p.m., Main Street, Regent, North Dakota." And yeah, Regent is a small town. We just kind of drove by the hotel for the heck of it here. Regent is a very small town. However, the way we came into town, we just almost missed this. You can almost overshoot it if you're not looking for it. If you drive around, I mean, there's pretty much one street in Regent. But believe it or not, we almost... we were driving and then we sort of looked behind us. We're like, oh yeah, there's the castle. But it was a nice little town. I stopped by the post office, as I collect postmarks, and there was a sweet lady running the place, and she was very nice. And yeah, just a neat little town. We were here kind of early though, so I did notice that there's an Enchanted Highway gift shop, and it was not open while we were here. But that's something I would have liked to have hit that if we would have been here a little bit later. And before we really get driving on the Enchanted Highway, I just wanted to read a little bit to you from a couple of signs. I believe these signs were posted at the first piece of art that we encounter on the Enchanted Highway, just in case you're wondering what exactly the Enchanted Highway is. And this sign talks about the artist. The Enchanted Highway began as artist Gary Graff's dream to help reinvigorate his hometown, Regent, and to have a positive economic impact on southwest North Dakota. Based on what farmers and ranchers were good at, welding, a part of rural North Dakota heritage, he helped them create art, one bead at a time. 20 years ago, Gary and more than 36 farmers welded the first 3 pieces of gigantic folk art to create the Tin Family and started the Enchanted Highway. With sparks of steel, Gary tells a story of lives lived on North Dakota prairie. And that's, we'll be seeing that here shortly. The first sculpture you kind of come across is that little family they talked about. And there's a little bit of kind of art to get you excited as we drive through town. And again, just a nice, very mellow little town. A little building going up there. And this was just nice. We enjoyed driving through here. And again, we had a good time driving through North Dakota. North Dakota is just so pleasant to drive through. And we were driving up through South Dakota to get here. And I mentioned this in another video. It was dark. There's lots of deer around. It was a little spooky in a very fun kind of way. And here's the first sculpture you come across on the Enchanted Highway. This little family. There are 7 of these sculptures, I believe, along the road. Most of them, they have this nice little path to drive into. A day or two before, there had been some bad weather, and I think that kind of affected the kind of dirt parking areas in front of the sculptures. You can tell they're well maintained. They have a little sign in front of each one telling you what's going on, telling you a little bit about the sculpture. But yeah, you can kind of drive in there, take a quick look at them, take some pictures, that, do that kind of thing, and then you're back on the road. And this again is a 32-mile stretch of road in North Dakota. And I was just looking at Wikipedia for a little more information on the highway. It stretches from Regent, North Dakota to Gladstone, North Dakota. It's 32 miles. And it looks like the artist that I mentioned previously, he actually paid for kind of the start of this out of his own pocket. According to Wikipedia, the state of North Dakota provided $75,000 in its budget for 19 and 20 to assist him in maintaining the sculptures. Before that year, he used his own money and donations to pay for the upkeep. The highway attracts approximately 6,000 tourist cars per year. So that's a very, very much of a labor of love on Greff's. Yeah, I mean, he's obviously doing a lot for that. This sculpture is called Teddy Rides Again, and there's Teddy Roosevelt, and kind of an interesting Western scene. I like that stagecoach there. We did see other cars around. Again, we were still kind of doing this early on an off morning. And, this is a very rural, isolated area. You've got to really want to get here. It's kind of on the way from Rapid City to the Teddy Roosevelt National Park. I think it added half an hour, 45 minutes to our drive, something like that, to kind of loop out of our way and do this. But it wasn't that far out of the way. When you looked at a map, you're kind of like, oh yeah, we got to fit the Enchanted Highway into our trip for sure. So yeah, we've seen two of the sculptures. You drive down, there's a sculpture every, roughly every, 5-6 miles on the average. Yeah, probably 7 or 8, more like that. But and you get this great view. Again, it's isolated, it's rural, and it's just really attractive. And this was just a pleasant drive to add to our trip. And this sculpture is called Pheasants on the Prairie. I liked this one quite a bit too. And I did want to try to take a moment to read you real quick. Again, posted on one of the signs is a newspaper article by Marion Amberg of Minneapolis, Minnesota. Little country road lined with big sights. The scenery along North Dakota's Enchanted Highway is larger than life, and then some. North Dakota's Enchanted Highway, America's biggest little country road, is so short it's never been assigned a number, but this 32-mile back road from Gladstone to Regent in the state's southwest corner boasts some of the largest metal folk art sculptures in the world. It all started in the early 1990s when a local farmer created Bale Man, a metal man lifting an enormous bale of hay. Metal sculptor Gary Greff, a retired school teacher from Regent, figured if people came to see that, they'd flock to see a whole highway lined with similar sculptures. Gary devised a plan to create 10 large metal sculptures, placing them every 3 miles. Farmers rounded up tons of scrap metal and started welding, and Gary helped them polish their creations. There are pheasants large enough to stop traffic with brilliant plumage and 30-foot-long tail feathers. There's a gigantic 10 family, including a mom with barbed wire hair. Teddy Roosevelt rides a 51-foot-tall pipe horse. Monster grasshoppers, the largest is 40 feet tall, devour a metal wheat field. The newest creation, 10 flying geese set against a 90-foot sun, should be completed this year. Sculptures on the drawing board will feature deer, a seascape with 60-foot bass, and a tribute. And again, we're just kind of driving down the road a little more. And I'll keep reading this article. This is a really pleasant and well-done article. Before you visit, the Enchanted Highway runs from I-94, take exit 72 about 10 miles west of Dickinson, south to Regent. For more information, they give a website. More to see. Gladstone is about 50 miles east of Medora, a town devoted to Teddy Roosevelt's life and times. Anyway, this is just a nice little article that they posted on one of their boards from a Minneapolis, Minnesota paper telling about the sculptures that you see. And then this one, of course, yeah, there's a little bit of rain there. I mean, it looks a little muddy, but again, like I said, they take care of this. This is a well maintained area. But this one is, I believe, Fisherman's Dream. I believe that was the title of this one. And again, kind of a wet day, it's kind of appropriate. We didn't drive all the way in because it was so muddy, but those little guys on bikes sure did. And they got a better view than we did. And yeah, this is something you could just kind of drive and not even pull over if you didn't want to. We tried to pull into each one and take some pictures and that kind of thing. And of course, we saw, guys on bikes. We did see a few other cars. Yeah, you're not going to be fighting with other tourists to get a good view. And as I looked up things to do in North Dakota, this popped up a lot. Obviously, it's on Roadside America and some other sites, but with North Dakota, it's kind of famously, if you're trying to visit every state, North Dakota is the state a lot of people visit last, just with its location. And I don't want to say that there's not a lot to do in North Dakota, but when you take any state, Pennsylvania, Nebraska, I can think of probably 20 major attractions that I want to see at some point or that I've seen. With North Dakota, it's Theodore Roosevelt National Park and the Enchanted Highway. So a lot of people save North Dakota for last. Oh, and this is Grasshoppers in the Field. I like this one a lot too. I thought this was just great. Just a great sculpture overall. But yeah, North Dakota gets saved as if you're hitting all 50 states, a lot of people save it for last. We did not quite save it for last. You hit states when opportunities present themselves. But yeah, North Dakota gets saved for last by a lot of people. Just I think out of planning reasons and that kind of thing. This would be about our 41st, maybe 42nd state we've visited. We've still got about 8 more we need to check off the checklist. But I was glad we got to do it this day. Yeah, look how cool that is. Think about the work that went into that. And any state could do this. Every state has some crazy artist that could tackle a project like this. And what a great project to tackle. I was thinking too, as we were driving through here, that if they start adding more sculptures to the Enchanted Highway, that would be justification to come back here again. I hope they add to this. I hope in 20, 30 years that there are a ton more sculptures. That would be really cool. That would be something North Dakota would need benefit from. I would just love to see something like that. Yeah, I'd love to see more added. And you see stuff like this little town. I was curious about that. I might have to look that up later. But there's other sites through here that get you thinking. But this was such a fun drive. It's not a huge road with lots of lanes. This is just country driving, and you're seeing these great sculptures. And yeah, like I kind of mentioned earlier, we drove from Rapid City up to this area, and it was just one heck of a drive. It was so scenic, so country. There were stretches where I don't think we passed a car for 20 minutes, half an hour. Very isolated. And as we drove up in the dark, and you had those ghostly buttes coming up on your left and right, and the deer that just kind of hang out on the road, and we saw a ton of deer. It was haunting, and I love that kind of thing. So this was just a fun drive. I believe this sculpture is Deer Crossing. Deer Crossing. Pulled in here briefly. I wanted to say too, as we got closer to the other town, we were coming up kind of from the south, going towards the north, and we went to the town of Gladstone, and then we near the end of the Enchanted Highway, or the start, depending on which way you're taking it, but the end for us was the town of Dickinson, which looked like a neat little town, a little more urban than this, but not much. It's just looked like a pleasant little town with some businesses, and we were jonesing for some good coffee, and I found a Dunn Brothers Coffee in Dickinson, North Dakota, and that's a chain I like a lot. It's my favorite coffee chain after Caribou, favorite national coffee chain. And I don't see enough Dunn Brothers. I know Nashville, Tennessee had one for a while, and I believe that one's gone, which I'm sad to hear about that. That was a nice cozy one, but they're always cozy. The one in Dickinson, I don't know if they all do this, but the one in Dickinson had a fireplace, and they had friendly staff, and we were so darn happy to find a Dunn Brothers Coffee. So just wanted to tip my hat to Dunn Brothers Coffee in Dickinson. Also, at that coffee shop, they had a couple of local freebie magazines, and I love that. Every community should do the free, here's what's going on locally kind of magazine, and I was glad to see Dunn Brothers carrying just the local free magazine. I always pick those up, and it looked like there's a couple, well, there's at least a little bit of a dinosaur museum kind of attraction there in Dickinson, so that's a little town I'd like to hit again. As I mentioned, we were on our way to Theodore Roosevelt National Park, and this was a perfect kind of side trip on the way to Theodore Roosevelt National Park. We were probably too ambitious on this day. We did end up seeing the national park. We ended up seeing the Enchanted Highway, and we thought briefly about trying to come back to Rapid City through Montana just for bragging rights to see Montana. That is one of the states we've not visited yet. But I didn't want to drive to Montana and go out of our way just to say we went to Montana. I want to see something. When we finally get to Montana, I want it to be for a reason. Kind of like this day. We did North Dakota, and we got to see two of their top attractions. And Theodore Roosevelt National Park is, man, that was a really special park, and I'll put up a video on that if I haven't already. It was kind of reminded us of Custer and Badlands, but of course you get the Teddy Roosevelt stuff in there too. And we just did the South Unit. There's the South Unit, the North Unit, and then there's a unit kind of covering the actual area where Teddy lived when he was in the area. And that one supposedly is harder to get to anyway. You got to make sure you have a good vehicle and you're going on gravel roads and that kind of thing. But yeah, we did end up doing Theodore Roosevelt National Park, and that was wonderful. We're driving towards the end of the Enchanted Highway here. I believe we are about to hit spider webs. I think that is the last sculpture that we're about to see here. And you do start to see it from a distance, which is kind of cool, and it almost looks like a Ferris wheel or something. Kind of a dream catcher sort of design. And you can see this one from, I think I might have mentioned this in one of the articles I read earlier, but you can see it from the interstate, and you kind of sneak up on it. Yeah, this one you can see from a distance, and you get excited about it. You're kind of like, oh, okay, what's this one? But yeah, we really enjoyed making this drive. This was something really nice. Again, it was about 32 miles. I did not film the entire length of it, but I tried to get all the sculptures in. Yeah, this is the last one. According to Wikipedia, this one's a bit of a work in progress, but it seems pretty complete to me. We did see there was another car there, and you kind of drive up this pathway. For some reason, this kind of reminded me a little bit of going to a drive-in movie. just I think with the entrance, then you get here and you look at it. But yeah, you can see it from the main road, and there's more going on with this than meets the eye. But it was yeah, just a kind of a nice way to end it. And I guess, if you're driving the other way, this would be the first one you start with, and then you end with the 10 family. But this was great too, and we loved this.